So thrilled to have you here today, Ileana Ferber, the founder and CEO of Colibri Business Development. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the invitation, for having me here.
As a consulting firm focused on implementing strategies that promote competitive supply chain in the energy sector, how do you aim to improve direct contact between local operators with IOCs and international drilling companies in Africa?
That's a fascinating question because that's kind of what in my previous job, what I was doing. When I talk to local operators, I call it the national oil companies, the NOCs, and the international, the IOCs. So um, it's fascinating because you have two partners, two key stakeholders, and communication, alignment, and trust is key. So in my previous job, at ExxonMobil, I had a 24-year career with ExxonMobil. My last years dedicating on local content was to serve as a kind of ambassador for the company to make that relationship, to build that relationship and to make it stronger. And it's the most important part that, based on that experience and what I'm doing right now, is listening. Listening and understanding really what are the needs of both and see where you can match the needs with the offerings. Because both stakeholders can offer something, but they also need something. And if those parts don't communicate those shares, those needs and offerings, then it's hard. So I think that's kind of how I make the connection and how I'm still making that connection.
As Namibia approaches oil and gas development following a series of offshore discoveries, how will local and international partnerships in the country ensure projects remain economically beneficial while adhering to, high global standards for offshore oil and gas?
One of the advantages and I think the benefits of local content is how it helps to keep costs low and have to create efficiencies. Why? Because by hiring local workforce and local suppliers, you don't have to, you know, eh, cover all those expenses of, for example, bringing equipment or paying higher salaries for expats. So it's always going to be cheaper, but also you're doing something good for the country to have that. You're supporting in the development and the growth of the economy. So the partnerships are important when you have local suppliers and foreign suppliers because that's how the capacity building and the transfer of knowledge, experience, know how it's going to happen. So and it has to flow. In some countries, because of policy or the requirements, they are mandatory, and then both local suppliers and foreign suppliers struggle to find the right partner because they have to meet that. When it's spontaneous, when it happens naturally, I think that's where the real beneficial benefits come because it again needs and offerings. So the local supplier needs to learn, and the foreign supplier needs also to learn, but they can actually help to build that capability with the suppliers, build skills to the people. So I think that partnership it's important, but you have to make it flow. It's like a marriage. You don't want to marry to anyone. You want to kind of date and understand how it goes, and then you form the relationship.
And I like that you brought up the learning. Could you just go a bit further into how the partnerships can facilitate, knowledge, skills, and technology transfer within any particular country?
Yeah, I like to see how the effect of expats. Expats that come from either from the IOC, the companies Shell, Chevron, ExxonMobil, but also the expats that come with foreign companies. Those foreign companies are going to be transfer that knowledge through creating a career planning for local people, but also it's the transfer of know-how. It's the tacit knowledge that we have. It's technology transfer. So technology transfer comes in different aspects. I will basically three, and one of them is know-how. And the only way to transfer know-how is by having someone work share you and that. So when I started, I'm from Venezuela, so I started in mobile in Venezuela. I was trained, and my skills were developed by expats. So I learned a lot, and learned a lot from even local and foreign suppliers. And then when I became an expat in Russia, I actually trained the local force and nationalized my own company. And by combining, creating, fostering those partnerships with locals and international companies, you make that happen. So it's not only at the workforce level, but also at the supplier level.
And if we just look at Namibia, for example, could you provide an overview of Namibia's strategy to link its hydrocarbon sector with other sectors in the economy?
You know, I love that question because that leads me to one of my most important messages behind local content. Local content brings economic growth, and economic growth is reached or accomplished through diversification. So Namibia is a fascinating country because it has so many natural resources, and it has already a developed sector, the mining. So I think when we look at the energy, because it's going to integrate renewables, we should see it as oil and gas and mining as the extractive sector, having linkages, of course, with renewables, but also having important linkages to other sectors, tourism, logistics, aviation, the food industry, I mean, including fish and live animals. So the linkages is that there's already experience in those sectors. And those experience and skills and capabilities are transferable. The key point is that because of the standards of the oil and gas industry, they are the highest among all of them. If you meet the international standards of oil and gas, you're good to work in any industry. So when there is a gap and suppliers and people are not ready or are not capable yet of working in the oil and gas industry, then what you need to do is really upskill and reskill. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to use the resources, use the people, the suppliers that are working in already sectors that are developed, and you just have to train. Because the experience and the approach is there.
And just, my final question is, how do you plan to leverage an event like this, African Energy Week? And what more can you tell us about what you're looking to achieve?
Well, I think this is my second year that I come to Africa Energy Week. And I think that this kind of events is the platform to facilitate it, to enable all those connections, all those partnerships. And even now, me as an independent consultant and having my own business, is that I reconnected with all the previous people that I worked with in the past, mostly governments, in the ministers or in the national companies and those local suppliers. So what I do is really, it's now tell that I'm available. I can help other stakeholders, which I think allows me to provide that capacity building that it's needed. And a lot of time, or what I've seen is that sometimes either from different perspective, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm willing to, and I'm passionate about explaining what you don't know, because we cannot assume that everybody knows about it. So local suppliers, yeah, they want to participate, but they need to be aware and understand how the industry works. So that's what I want to do it. And governments, they want to create local content requirements and a policy. So how do you enable them? They are the ones that should own it, but they should collaborate with and listen to other stakeholders.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity.